Hi everyone, this is Karine from the Crew Coach, and you are on the Wellbeing project. I want to welcome our guest, Feraz, who is a in-flight service manager. Is that correct, Feraz? Have I got it?
That is correct.
I'm missing a word.
No, it's completely correct. It's fine.
Oh, excellent. Wonderful. So Feraz has been in the yachting realm. He's been very active on social media, attending webinars. I met him on our recent webinar for PYA on psychological safety. Well, it was a bit about psychological safety at sea, but also we had a doctor. We spoke about ENG1 and safety on board. And yeah, Feraz and I had a discussion on LinkedIn, and I thought he would be fantastic to join us on the Wellbeing project to hear about his insights around crew safety, well-being on board, especially with our current times, a very volatile environment, and how do we keep one another safe? So welcome, Feraz. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you, Queen. Really appreciate it. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to actually be here as well. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
No, my pleasure. So you started your career when you were 32 years of age, and you disclosed that you're currently 40, well, in aviation. Is that right? You've been in aviation?
No, I actually started my career in aviation at 22.
Wow.
So I joined at 22. I turned 22. 5 days later, I joined the airline in the Middle East. And then I was there for 18 years. At 32, I became an in-flight service manager. Yeah. And I turned 40 last year, and then due to COVID, my contract wasn't renewed, and I had to leave everything in the Middle East and come back to the UK. Wow. And so from there, basically, I'm trying to pursue a career in yachting, just because after a bit of deep thinking, I've actually realized that my main passion wasn't actually flying, it's actually traveling. As travelers will know, I mean, it's actually on my LinkedIn profile, as travelers know, you can't explain it to anyone. It's just something that's done. And once you travel, you're really a nomad. You don't really settle. So I'm not a settling type person, unfortunately. So I thought, we'll try maritime, and let's give maritime a go. It's still a form of traveling. It's a different way of traveling, some new experiences. But we'll try that avenue.
Fantastic. So tell me a bit about your transition. You said you went back to the UK in October in the height of COVID lockdown. The weather, you came into winter, you've been following the sun for many, many years, and it was a huge thing for you to climatize, not only physiologically, but I think also mentally. So what was that transition period like for you?
I mean, it's been quite difficult. I mean, in the sense that, like I said to you, as you mentioned as well, I've been in the Middle East for the last 18 years. I mean, coming from the UK, great, I was used to the cold. I was born in the cold. However, going to the Middle East, you're at 40 degrees at the heights of summer. Coming back here was really a culture shock. And also because of lockdown, it wasn't like you could actually go out and go anywhere. And also because my mum's in her 60s, I just didn't feel comfortable then going out for a walk or anything, just to come back. And then if anything happens, I'd be the one to blame. So it was kind of difficult. I mean, the cold definitely, it was a wake-up call. And yeah, it's just, I've managed to deal with it. And I did take the odd walk to the park. I mean, I think maybe from October till December, I think I left the house maybe 2 or 3 times, maybe once to go to the supermarket and maybe twice to actually take a walk in the actual park. I just didn't feel safe. And like I said, I was actually that cold. I didn't want to actually go out.
Oh, it was the cold that, and obviously not making your mum sick, were the reasons why you didn't want to go outside?
That's right, yeah.
So how did that impact your mental health?
To be honest with you, it was, I mean, looking back at it now, I think it could have been a lot worse. I mean, and I should have actually got out of the house a lot sooner, because back in March, I decided to do an IT course. And to do the IT course, I had to go into the city centre. And it was a basic IT level 1 course. And what was great about it was just the fact that I was actually going out and interacting with people. So actually, I do apologize, not March, it was May. It was when lockdown had partially lifted in the UK. And what was great about it was just the fact that I was actually going out and interacting with people. And it just made such a difference. Now, the course was really easy to do. And I even said to the tutor, I know that I'm actually, again, not blowing my own trumpet, I was actually good at what I was doing. But I just said, look, the fact that I'm actually meeting people just to get out of the house, I said, I really appreciate it. So I think with that, I think people do need to understand that taking that walk and going out for that walk, it's really important. Talking to people, I think it is really, I know it's easier said than done that, oh, you need to talk to someone. It's not as easy because, again, you know, people think that they're strong and they can cope with it. I'll be honest with you, if I could do it all over again, I would have gone straight out for walks back in October rather than leaving it all the way up till May kind of thing. So I just think, yeah, people do need to actually, you do need to reach out and do ask for help. I mean, it is easy to say that. Again, even with friends and family, it's difficult in the sense that they think that everything's going to be okay. They don't know what you're really going through from your mental health. And again, I think what really kind of triggered it for me was I joined a Zoom group in January. And I remember just being on the Zoom call and everyone basically had a little chat. And I think I was in the call for about half an hour, and the actual group host said to me, "Feraz, what about you?" And I just burst into tears. And I think that was kind of a reality check then as well, that things are actually real. And someone actually is asking about me, but they don't really know anything about me. And when I started talking, it was fine. Right, let's do this, let's do that. Let's get this, let's try to get you a job. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I don't just want any job. This is what I want to do. And this is how I'm trying to achieve it. It's a difficult market to get into, but you know, this is what I want to do. But everyone was trying to jump on the bandwagon with let's do this, let's do that. And it has been difficult, but then it's also given me confidence as well. Whereas now on that same group, I actually help people overcome their fear. And actually the host recently this week is actually going for an interview, and he was struggling for interview stuff because he was saying it's been a year since he's actually had any interviews. And I've actually given him support. There was another colleague on there who is an IT manager, and he was doing a PowerPoint presentation. And I said, if you don't mind, let me have a look at your PowerPoint presentation. And I actually gave him tips on his PowerPoint presentation. And he just laughed. He said, I'm the IT director, but you're giving me... I said, well, look, the thing is you think as a flight attendant, you know, all we do is serve chicken and beef. I said, it's not just about chicken and beef. I said, we do a lot more stuff than that. You know, it's safety. It's basic. Again, it is the well-being of fellow crew, fellow customers. You know, it's security, you know, making sure everything is all there. You know, we're first responders. You're a counselor. You're a mother. You're a father. You're a nurse, you're a paramedic, not a paramedic, you're not a nurse, you're a first responder. So you're there in all these different capacities, but in a short space of time. So it's like taking one cap off and you put the next cap on, and you're literally all these different people in a split of a second. And that's the great thing about what aviation has actually taught me, that I'm able to do all those things. I'm able to adapt and help all these people out. And I think by helping these people on the course, it's actually giving me a bit more confidence, which I think is why in the actual call that we had with yourself, I was able to actually speak up and actually say, well, no, actually, this is how it's done. This is what should be done. This is how we should be able to do things. And I think it's given me a bit more of a voice. It has given me confidence, because when my job was taken away from me, I did actually have a confidence thing. I did have a thing of, was it me? Did I do something wrong?
Very common.
And it's not me. It's just unfortunate. It's the situation, because on the same day that I got my email, 6,000 other people got their email as well to say that, look, we no longer require you. I think as well, the harsh reality for me was the company that I worked for was the company I always wanted to work for. I mean, I flew them in 1991. I was 11 years old, and it was the company that I always dreamed to work for. So at the age of 22, I got to work for my dream company. Yeah. And you don't stay at a company for 18 years if it isn't the company you think you're going to be with forever. And so for me, it was a huge shock. It was a culture shock. And again, as I said before, I'm not blowing my own trumpet. I am good at what I do. When I put my mind to something, I am very good at what I do. All I got was, and again, I think the way how it was done was the harsh reality of, was basically it was done through an email.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Was there any through care support with regards to termination after decades of your service towards the company? No,
unfortunately not, there wasn't, unfortunately. And I think, again, it was just because it was, I'm not blaming the company. I just think the way it was, it's just the situation that everyone was in. I think it was just basically there was a mass redundancy that happened, or job loss that happened. And it was just thinking, it just all happened in a space of 2 days. And there wasn't really much I could do. But again, I think from a managerial point of view, managers could have called out, whether it was they were told not to call out. there could have been a bit of a personal interaction. I mean, I get it had to happen, but not having that closure was kind of difficult. I think my closure then happened, I said on that Zoom call that I did in January, coming back to the UK, that I think was the kind of the nail on the head, where I thought,
sorry, the nail. Sorry, I think I'm jumping the gun. I was just thinking of what I'm trying to think of solutions, because I'm a solutions person. And I was like, oh yeah, a debrief would have been fantastic to get people on a Zoom call and unpack it and go, how are you feeling about this?
Even if it was just a phone call, because my manager had my number, even a phone call would have been okay. You know, just to say, I mean, like I said, I get the situation. I totally understand the situation, that look, this is what the situation is. We've got a surplus amount of crew, and unfortunately we don't need you. Your contract's up for renewal, we don't need you. It would have been fine, but not having that physical voice, it was, like I said, it was done through an email, through whoever it was, it doesn't matter. It was just done, and it was done in a very callous way. It could have been done more tactful, and it could have helped a lot of people's mental health as well, I personally think. I'm quite strong, and I'm very fortunate that I'm from the UK and I'm able to come back to the UK. Like I said, 140 nationalities, not everyone could go back to their home country. Not everyone could go back to their home country and earn the money that they were actually earning as well. So I kind of think that there should have been some form of support there, which would have been beneficial. Again, even CV writing, there was nothing about CV writing. There wasn't anything that this is how you can redo your CV. Yes. There was nothing like that. I mean, I haven't written a CV in 18 years.
Yeah, true. You know, they could have provided just to help you with that transition.
Exactly.
And you don't have to do one-on-one. You could just do the group interactions to help upskill in specific areas. And for us, what I'm hearing is that individuals are probably not very equipped in doing crisis intervention. So as you shared with your friend doing first aid, you kind of panic because you're like, I don't do this on a day-to-day basis. And people do not know how to respond to that. So my mum, lost her husband, my stepdad, and they were together for 21 years of COVID this year. And the hospital called her, and this lady got her surname wrong and said, just to let you know, your husband's died. She said, what? Well, what do you mean? And it was the delivery of it that was so shocking. She put down the phone. She was in utter shock. She's like, get the manager to call me, because she could tell that the person wasn't trained in delivering that information, and the system had been exhausted. So the person at the top who's probably supposed to call was not calling because they just didn't have the resources to do so.
And I get that. Because the same thing happened with the company that I was with, and it wasn't just flight attendants that got laid off. There was engineers, there was pilots, there was ground staff, there was admin staff, there was HR staff. So I completely get that. But again, even if they had something on the website that, look, this is a video, this is what you need to do, this is what might help you secure future employment, or how to write a CV. I mean, the thing is when I wrote a CV back in 2002, it's a long, long time ago, CVs were different. CVs have completely changed to what they are today. And, you know, I've actually struggled. I mean, I found it really difficult. I mean, writing a CV it's been an actual shock to the system, because like I said to you, I've not written one in 18 years. Even when we went for our promotions, I mean, like I said to you, I worked from economy to business class to first class as a cabin supervisor. I then managed the air. Every time we went through, it was just basically click apply, you do an assessment, and then basically you did the assessment, you did like a 6-month trial pool period. And then you did, like I said, reflections, you had documentation. So when it came to, for example, I'm just going to kind of jump the gun again back. When I talk about the guy who did the IT guy with the PowerPoint presentation, we had to do a PowerPoint presentation. And so what we got told there was that when you do a PowerPoint presentation, it's minimal stuff on the PowerPoint presentation. So it wasn't just skills that you learn as a flight attendant of, like I said, serving chicken and beef. There was a lot more other things to that. We got to use Microsoft Word, writing reports, using Excel, so again, we got a lot of exposure to that as well. I'm like saying to you, the training was fantastic. The training was absolutely phenomenal. And I would not fault the training, you know, definitely hands down the best training ever, ever, ever. And I've not seen anything like it ever since. Well, not that I've worked or anything, but still, even when like I've done my STCW training, it's just kind of, it's not facilitation. It's just more reading from a manual. This is what it is. This is how, and that was it.
Download.
And people don't learn like that, not in this day and age. And especially when, because I also used to train as well. I used to facilitate as well. I used to facilitate a customer service program. So it's just one of those things where they have given us the equipment. If they'd just done a little bit more to help us do, like I said, to write that CV, you know, people could be in a better place. The other thing was, though, in the Middle East as well, the actual city where I was living, they started manipulating the facts that they knew they could get this really good caliber of candidate, but really poor pay. So people were accepting jobs for like really minimal wage. Not that there is a minimal wage there, but really poor salaries, and ended up had to leave because they couldn't sustain living there.
Gosh.
So
Wow.
again, that also then affects the mental health, that affects the well-being as well, because then you're trying to struggle to pay bills, and it affects everything. It affects everything.
Have you lost any colleagues as a result of suicide?
I've not lost colleagues, but there was rumor that when I got my email in August, there was rumor that apparently in July, there was 3 suicides that had happened because people had got the email. And the thing is as well, like I said to you, the travel or aviation or yachting or whatever it is in travel, it's not just a job, it's a lifestyle. It's part of who you are. It's part of your blood. It's part of your DNA. And like I said to you, it's difficult to explain, but people who will be watching this, who are in the similar industries, they'll understand it. Yeah. You can't explain it. So when someone says to you all of a sudden, and it's like, so for example, my brother, when he resigned from the airline, it was different. It was his choice. When it's taken away from you, then it's even more difficult. You know what I mean? It's not as easy as, well, I've made the decision. I no longer want to fly anymore. I no longer want to do yachting anymore. When it's taken away from you, it has a very huge impact.
Yes.
And it's unfortunately, like I said to you, because of the pandemic, you know, it's one of those things that people have actually realized, okay, well, we do need to do something else. And again, there was quite a lot of colleagues that did have, you know, a second income, or they did like something on the side. But the thing is, like I said to you, you don't expect to do anything because you're not ready to leave. When you're ready to leave, you know you're going to hand your resignation in and go.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
So going back to that webinar where we covered breaking down the stigma and creating psychological safety, and you mentioned the safety meetings that you had, just wondering with regards to that, because what we find, I think in any organization, if there's someone at the top that is untrustworthy, disrespectful, or showcases poor leadership, to be part of a safety meeting that someone's leading you've got no respect for, you're not going to share. You're not going to say, hey, I'm not really feeling good at the moment. And I worked for corrections in prisons, maximum security prisons. And the officer told me of a debrief session where I think a inmate committed suicide, and a couple of the officers attended the scene, and then they have to remove the body. So people are impacted by that. And in the debrief meeting, they said, so yesterday this happened, you're good, yeah, okay, moving on, next topic, security, you know, and not actually sitting with the people to do a really thorough debrief. So what goes on from your perspective in aviation?
So basically in aviation, we had so in the company I worked for, we had a thing called peer support, and that was basically flight attendants and the people from the business. And if there was, say, for example, a medical case on board and it was a serious medical case, peer support would be in touch with you. So we had work emails. They'd contact you on the work email and say, look, I believe this incident has happened. Do you want to talk about it in confidential? You know, it's just someone to actually, for you to unload on. They're not going to be there to actually give you any answers or anything. They're just there to listen to if you want. I was actually part of the peer support team, but unfortunately I didn't actually get myself activated because I left it within 6 months of actually joining it, purely because when I did join it, my mum actually had breast cancer at the time. So it was a bit of a challenging time that I thought I need to deal with my family come first, and then I'd go back to it. And then unfortunately it just didn't happen. So I've actually done the training for that. So again, it was a great way of, because you're from the business, you understand the impact of it, because you might be 3 o'clock down in Sydney, because when we used to fly to Sydney, we had 3 flights a day. One of the flights would land at 1 o'clock in the morning, so again, Sydney time. So you're arriving at 1 o'clock in the morning, you may all of a sudden, if you've dealt with a medical case, you may all of a sudden, have a bit of a breakdown. Yeah. So, that's the thing, the airline was, we flew all over the world, and, you could have a moment where, like I said to you, we dealt with medical cases on a daily basis. It was like, okay, what's coming out of the hat today kind of thing, Is it going to, it was just one thing, you didn't shy away from it, because basically when it happened, it was like, right, okay, all guns blast, let's go, let's get it sorted out. Okay, this is what we've been trained in, this is what we remember. Not everyone's going to be as proficient as it is, but let's see what we can do. And so the peer support was great, because basically what they'd do is, again, like, we'd talk to people, again, and it would be open questions. So again, the person would talk to you. And again, I think as well with debriefs, again, so when we would have a debrief, whether it was anything, whether it was a flight where something went wrong, again, I think people need to understand a debrief isn't a debrief of, oh, this is what you did wrong, and oh, are you all good? It's not a matter of that. A debrief is, okay, this is what's happened. What do you think went right, and what do you think went wrong? What are your opinions on it? And how can we then basically move forward from that? So the next time this happens, how can we then actually deal with that? And that's unfortunate, because again, what you just mentioned about in the corrections, it's very similar in the aviation industry as well, that we don't actually, it's about the hierarchy as well. Oh, well, this is what I said, I didn't like it, this is a debrief, you're in trouble. Because I remember quite a few times when I would give a debrief to the crew, if something had happened, the first thing they would actually say is, are we in trouble? I'm like, you're not in trouble. It's just, look, this is what's happened. This has gone wrong, right? How can we prevent this from happening next time? That's what a debrief actually is. People don't understand the meaning of the word debrief.
No.
So again, I think,
yeah, like, sorry to interrupt, but it's like, it's all to do with safety at the end of the day with a debrief, because you're looking for solutions to keep oneself safe. And also going back on an experience where I was facilitating and a fight broke out with the inmates, and I thought, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to see blood today and teeth flying. And it was just me and another female. We had no radios, no cameras. And then we got eventually, like, the inmate ran out and I think called security. But if they didn't, then I'm not too sure what could have come from that. But no solution was offered after that. No extra cameras were put in. The officer said, oh yeah, I thought I heard a noise upstairs. I mean, that could have been catastrophic. It actually, you're right. And that comes with training and education.
I think as well, though, like you said, if that had been a proper debrief, they could have then understood what your fear factor was, because again, who knows what was going through your head. Again, and it's fair life. Like you said, blood could have been seen. You might even be having this conversation with me right now. So again, I think debriefs need to be understood, that a debrief isn't about, oh yeah, just wash it under the carpet, or basically this is a bollocking. This is basically, it's something where you need to understand what went wrong. How can we actually move forward from it so it doesn't happen again? If it does happen again, how can we actually tackle that situation and understand it better? And I think people don't understand that with a debrief.
Yeah. So how do you make time for it in case say a crisis happened on your way to Sydney, you're arriving at 1 a.m., everyone is exhausted. Are you obliged to do a debrief then and then? Yeah, what happens?
Say, for example, for me, if it was happening basically, so if we were at home base, so at home base in the headquarters, we'd actually have debrief rooms. Or what I would try to do is I'd try to do it on the aircraft. So again, basically, it's still fresh in the head. It's important. While it's on the aircraft, it kind of still has that importance that we're now not in a classroom or in a room sitting around a table having this discussion. So I do it either on board, or basically I try to gather the crew basically straight after the flight. Look, this is what's happened. How can we deal with it? What happened? Can you give your input? And please speak, don't. And I think as well, also so this is what I learned from training as well, when I used to train as well. When you actually ask a question, you need to actually pause. Now that pause may seem like it's a lifetime. it's about 10 seconds. Automatically, someone will break and someone will speak up because people don't like the awkward silence. So the thing with that is as well, it's about being patient. And the thing is, as humans, we're not patient. We are not patient, especially in this day and age. We want everything to happen and we want it to happen right now. So the same thing, when you ask a question, just pause, stay quiet. And you always, well, does someone want, and you try to rephrase the question, don't rephrase the question, just say the question and just stay quiet.
Yeah.
It will give the opportunity for people to actually speak, because people don't like the awkward silence. So again, I'm not saying that I'd say 99% of my flights, the crew appreciated the fact that I was part of their team, and I'd actually give them an opportunity. And I'd also ask for 360-degree feedback as well. Good. So I'm not saying that, I'm perfect, because I'm not. There was the odd one or two people that, didn't like my leadership style. But the thing is, because I understood that of giving the people the opportunity to speak, I think people appreciated it, because it meant that then, yes, their voice could be heard. And again, it wasn't like I said to you, I'd always say to them, look, this isn't about you're in trouble, because look, what happened. You can't change that. What we can do is we can prevent it from happening in future. So how do we do that? What can we do in future to make sure that happens? Was it lack of communication? Was it lack of knowledge? Was it because you were tired? Was it because you didn't sleep? Because again, like I said to you, when you're doing, even when we used to fly to Auckland, it was a 16-hour flight, and again, like I said to you, you're not taking off at 8 o'clock in the morning, arriving at 6 o'clock in the evening. You were taking off at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're arriving at 10 o'clock at night. There was all these different times, you were going through. So it does have an effect on your body. It does have effects on the mental health. So it's, it was definitely, like I said, it's always been challenging. It's always going to be challenging, because not everyone gets it from that mindset, especially from a leadership role as well. So even like sorry, please go ahead.
No, finish your sentence. I want to ask about the support that your company offered around mental health when you finish your sentence.
Okay. No, I was just going to say, it definitely is challenging. Because like I said to you, there's a whole lot of factors: fatigue, time zones, workload, a lot of different things, so it just depended on the flight as well, depending on the passenger profile. It depended on everything. So you couldn't say that this flight was going to be smooth every single time. I'll give you a quick example of one of my Manchester flights. I used to do Manchester flights all the time because I'm from Manchester. It was great, come home, see my family for 24 hours and head back. The flight that left at 3 o'clock in the morning was great, because everyone would sleep, breakfast before landing, fantastic, nice, easy flight. Right. Yeah. But again, it was hard on us as crew, because basically we were up all night. You had to be awake. You couldn't just fall asleep, because you had to be there on the aircraft. We take off an hour into the flight. We've done the first snacky service, and there's a child that's ill. This child's ill. He's got bronchitis. Okay. Now, as we get to speak to the parents, the bronchitis pneumonia, from pneumonia, basically he's been ill prior to all this. Oh my God. The funny thing was, the actual family didn't speak any English. They only spoke Urdu. Now, me being a Pakistani background, I speak Urdu, and I was the Urdu speaker. So then I went to go and converse with them. And as I'm speaking to the family, we then pay for a medical professional. We get a doctor. We give an injection. We then basically end up diverting the aircraft to Vienna. So we offload the family in Vienna. So from a nice, easy flight, then became one of these flights where everyone was awake, because we then had to divert into Vienna. Everyone was awake, then everyone wanted alcohol at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, no, it's not happening. So again, I'm trying to deal with getting this passenger off the flight. I'm trying to deal with then passengers saying that they want alcohol. Everyone's now awake. I've then got the crew saying to me, we've still got breakfast service to do, and we still need to then serve these customers. It's a full flight. We've never done a flight from Vienna to Manchester before. So how do we do the service? So I'm like, okay, think of it as like one of these flights. It's a Jeddah to Dubai. Think of it as one of those flights, that time zone. And then basically just remember, just add the alcohol on. And so, but then my mind was also, I remember the doctor saying to me as well, this is how, the doctor said to me, what time is it? What time are we landing? And I looked at my watch, and it had the Roman numerals on, and I just went, it's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 minutes before we land. Is that how you tell the time? I said, I'm not being funny. He said, but right now, I said, I've got to get this aircraft prepared. I've got to make sure we land into Vienna. I said, landing into Vienna, we need to make sure bars are closed. I also need to make sure that then we're secure to take off. We have paperwork to go into the UK for bars and stuff that I need to make sure I've done. I need to make sure the aircraft gets off on time, because then I also have to think of the passengers that are in Manchester that are then going to come onto the flight, are then going to miss their connecting flights. There's not just one thing that I've got to think of. So right now, if my way of doing the time is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 minutes, that's how I'm actually doing it, because I'm actually keeping myself calm, because my adrenaline is taken over and I'm trying to stay calm. And then she went, I'm really sorry. I said, no. I said, it's fine. I said, but I'm just giving you the understanding of how I'm actually trying to keep myself calm in this stressful situation. It was a 2-year-old child. So you can imagine, was it a 2 or was it 3-year-old child? So you can imagine when that child's life is at risk, the family don't speak any English, and we're trying to actually sort something out. It was one of those things. It was stressful. We managed it, and the kid's actually fine. I mean, I remember speaking to the station manager, no, the child's actually fine about a week later. So that type of stuff, you know what I mean? It's definitely challenging in its way. But like I said to you, with the training that we were given, it was constantly drilled into us every day. You know, we were asked questions every day on safety. If you're on this flight, this happens, this happens. You talk about stuff, your training automatically kicks in. So that's what I can say.
Yeah, it's so important. And to be honest with you, like, I feel our industry it's been behind for a long time. Even when I was working as crew 10 years ago, it was backwards. And I thought, oh, why is there no official leadership training? How does the captain not know how to handle this conflict? And yeah, it really shocked me. And I think, you know, that the industry, there's so much more we can do to add value. And I think if we take care of our crew and provide the right tools so that they can really shine at what they do with confidence is crucial, really is. And a brief thing that you mentioned about the SCCW, you know, just being download and the need for facilitation, the need for discussion. Because when I was on board and had to do the fenders, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing and I'm too scared to ask for help. And all I could remember was the chief officer saying, you got to be really careful because you can lose limbs if you don't know what you're doing. But there wasn't a degree of safety for me to go, I'm green, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm not going to ask because I want this job. You know, and that's the wrong way about doing things. But yeah, just saying the importance of taking care of your employees. Now with Rick,
No, I was going to say, no, you're actually right, because my brother used to fly. He used to tell me there's certain in-flight service managers, they're done this. I'm like, look, I can't tell you how they're going to deal with you because everyone's different. But you would get that hierarchy of, this is my flight, this is my way, this is the highway, if it's my way or the highway. And I think it's a similar thing in the yachting industry. There is that hierarchy, there is that age thing. But I think people need to understand that it doesn't matter what age you are, as long as you're confident and you know what you're doing, people will come to you, people come and will respect you. But if you don't know what you're doing, then how come anyone respects you at all? Whether you're a chief stew or a number 2 or anyone, you know what I mean? So it's about having that, like I say, it's the knowledge, it's having that confidence, it's basically, and actually being approachable. You know, you need to be approachable. If you're not approachable, people will not come to you. Like you said, people will shy away. And like you said, you don't want, I mean, even like when you said about the crew member that you were talking about in the webinar, that she'd said that she had anxiety and she wasn't allowed to have her ENG1. Well, then will that stop people from getting their ENG1 and getting a job on the yacht? More than likely, yes. So they won't tell you that they've got anxiety, which is a shame.
They don't.
Yeah, and that's what and that's the reason. When they get on board, because they're then in a confined space and they've never worked in a confined space, it then basically escalates even more because they then can't get away from it. And this is what the yachting industry needs to understand, that you can't have that, because number one, it affects the morale of the actual staff. It affects the actual service that you're giving to the actual customer. So again, you know, you need to, this stuff needs to be addressed. You can't just keep brushing it under the carpet.
Yeah, I was, to be honest, quite frustrated in that conversation, just because I hope you couldn't pick that up. I hope I try to cover it.
To be honest with you, Queen, I'm gonna be honest with you. I actually did notice it because I noticed your body language, because your body language, and again, it was one of those where you were kind of just like this. The thing is, and I'm not saying again, I go back to the whole thing that I'm not Mr. Know-it-all, but because I've worked in aviation for the last 18 years, you read people. You can tell by people's body language. You know, you can see when, because this is my whole thing as a manager of a flight. You knew when to engage with a person and when not to engage with a person. You can see when a person was upset, and that was just through specific little signs of body language. And I could see that you were frustrated, because even when I was commenting stuff, I know that no one else said anything, and I appreciate you did mention me. It was just one of these, because no one else was saying anything. And it was like, oh yeah, but when we do, and everyone says in our industry, I get your industry is yachting and mine's aviation. But like I said to you, when you actually mar them together, a vessel's a vessel, whether it's in the air or on the sea. Yes, it's fine. I get that it's different. I also understand that basically with a vessel in the air, we still have emergency equipment. You have the same on a vessel on the sea. You still have guests. The difference is my thing happens in a space of an hour to 16 hours, 17 hours max. Yours is prolonged over a week. The thing is as well, like if there's a fire, you've got water in the sea that you can actually use. In the air, we have, depending on if it was the A380, you had, I think it was 20 fire extinguishers, and they last for 9 seconds. If you didn't use those correctly, in the correct way that they should be used, you're dead. Because the aircraft will burn from the tail to the cockpit in literally 12 minutes, because everything on that aircraft is flammable. So that's
I don't want to fly. You're gonna put me off.
No, it's not. No, but this is what. What I'm trying to say to you is because we're so highly trained, we're so highly trained that our training kicks in. We can cover all that. It's been trained. It's drilled into us. Like I said to you, every year, every 6 months, every time we do a flight, that briefing is basically, that's why we have a briefing before the start of every trip, every flight. Even if you've got the same crew, we do a briefing. You ask safety questions to refresh people's memory, because you're not going to remember everything. You know, the manual's about this thick. Yeah, you're not going to remember everything. But just to highlight that and remind yourself, things do start clicking in. So that's what I'm saying. The training is so important, and it's so important to do those drills, because if you don't do them, you won't remember it. Yeah. And I was speaking to a captain, you know, trying to find, you know, employment in yachting, and he said, oh well, you know, on a vessel, you know, equipment. I said, we do equipment. I said, I was trained on the 330, the 380, the 777-200, the 777-300. We had a 777-200 2 class, a 777-300 3 class. Now that's most probably all just like, whoa, what's all this? The different types of aircraft, depending on the seating, depending on where the aircraft configuration, slight equipment was slightly different. So you had to know all of that. And it wasn't just that, oh, you need to know that for whatever. When you had your exams, you weren't sure which aircraft diagram you were going to get. And you literally had to learn several of those different aircrafts, because you didn't know what you were going to get. So the different variants you had to know as well. So it's one of those things that I'm saying to you, you know, yachting says that, oh no, this is our industry. You don't know anything about it. Serving customers isn't difficult. And when you have a passion for serving customers and have customer service knowledge, you know, that comes from within. That doesn't come from whichever industry you're from. Also, what you find is as well, with, I kind of lost my train of thought. No, I was going to say yeah, no, it's gone.
You're like me. Gone. My brain goes a million. Like how do I describe it? Before I can get the sentence out, I'm already 5 sentences ahead of myself. Yeah. But so just before we finish off, I'd love to know what support you think a company should provide, or as well as a leader, to provide to support crew from a mental health perspective. What needs to be put in place? Because I know that a lot of crew might tend to turn to alcohol or recreational drugs to unwind, let go. And speaking to a friend who worked for Qantas, and she said, look, I'm really concerned about my colleagues just because they are away from their loved ones in a hotel by themselves, and the only thing that's available to them is to go to the hotel bar and drink. And they get coupons for it, so they're encouraged to do it. So what do you think, like, I don't know if you know the brand Lululemon, but they put on different things to take care of the well-being of the crew. I know it's a well-being brand, but what do you think could be put into place that could be helpful?
Look, it's a bit difficult because it depends on where you are, which company you're working for. But I mean, the basic thing is, look, they need to have an open channel. And the open channel is, it needs to be anonymous. So people do feel comfortable that if they do share something, it's not going to come back and bite them. But then the problem is even if they go to, I know that in the yachting industry, there's a thing that is for mental health and well-being that you can contact. There's this company that's recently just come out. That's right. Yeah. So I think that's great that you've got that. But the problem is that doesn't really address the fact that you've got a problem on the boat, because your boat is not really, it's there, but it's not part of the actual service that they're providing. Yeah, it's great that you can actually speak to someone, but that's not going to get rid of the problem that you're actually dealing with on that boat. So again, I think, I don't know, maybe it's a difficult one. I don't know how to actually put it. But there needs to be somewhere. I mean, like I said to you, it's this mentality of, like I said to you, my way or the highway, I'm the chief stew, I'm whatever. That needs to go. I mean, I know it's easy said than done, but maybe formal training does need to be given in, even with the STCW, that, again, with the facilitation of that, not only just facilitation, it needs to be understood that they need to talk about mental health and well-being in that as well. Talk about that in the training, so that people understand that, look, this is what could go on, before you do go into it. It should be highlighted on there, so that before people do start going on there, that you are in confined spaces. Don't get me wrong, people have watched Below Deck and think, oh yeah, we can do this job, because everyone I've spoken to, oh, I've watched Below Deck, I can do this job. I'm like, it's not as easy as that. There's a lot more stuff that goes on behind the scenes. It's not just about, oh yeah, all the glitz and glamour. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind that you don't see. So I think, again, with STCW, and I'm not blaming the STCW, but I think something needs to be put in place there that will make people understand that, yeah, there could be mental health issues that you may need to address, but then maybe there needs to be a designated person to have that. But then again, it goes back to training, it's cost. I don't know. I honestly don't know, Karine, because again, I don't know how it's going to work, because again, depending on the size of the boat, depending if it's 3 shoes, 4 shoes, depending on the size, how does that then actually work? Because again, as I was speaking to, like I said, I was speaking to this captain, he was saying to me that because I've got the safety and security background that I have from aviation, I would be more suited to a 50-meter yacht. The thing is every yacht I've tried to apply for, you need experience. Okay, I have experience, but I don't have experience on a yacht. So, how do I go about doing that? So it's a difficult one. So
I had an interview this morning with Captain Luke Hammond. You might want to find him on social media, and he's very passionate. Pardon,
I've not spoken to him physically, but I have actually. I was on when he was with the guy from, is it My Yacht Arrow? He's what's his name now? Trishan. He was on a YouTube thing. They were on a YouTube thing, and I actually spoke on it, and I did say, look, I've got 8 years of experience. And he said, oh no, he goes, you're not from our industry, you'd have to start from the bottom. And I'm like, okay, sure, not a problem.
Yeah.
So, and I've tried to reach out to him on LinkedIn, on Facebook. And again, and I appreciate what they're saying, if you haven't made an effort or whatever, why should I accept you as a friend? Why should I accept you as a contact? So it's been, like I said to you, it's been tough, because I mean, even with social media, I've not really been on social media, because with my 18 years of flying, I wasn't really on Facebook, because again, social media, I don't want to post anything bad about the company in case anything happened, because the repercussions that I saw with colleagues or with other people, from different companies and stuff. So this whole time I've learned how to use LinkedIn, I learned how to use Zoom, I've learned how to get onto Zoom beforehand rather than at the time that you specified, so that basically you're not actually late. And if there's any technical issues, you can then actually sort that out as well. So little things like that, it's been difficult, but I mean, I do actually know who he is. I don't know him personally, but he is very passionate about helping people into the industry. I do know that.
Yeah. Well, when his interview comes out, maybe have a watch. But this is my point about the industry being a little bit backwards around, there might be, I know with these positions with the green crew, they say at least 1 year experience, 2 years season experience, but very tough to get that when you've got high competition. And you might have someone on board who, and this was my argument to Luke, but he was able to shine some perspective of what captains or heads of departments are looking for from green crew. But you could have a really incompetent leader on board, a narcissist, or you could have a bully on board, and they are the ones that seem to hold that position and are not being made let go. And then you've got green crew that, yeah, maybe don't have the yachting experience behind them, but 20 years in hospitality and lived experience and perhaps emotional intelligence and all that can add value to the yacht. So important when you interview to look at the soft skills, not just the hard skills. And he said, look, to be honest, if Green Crew went out of their way to learn about the ropes, which is starboard side, which is port side, how to tailor their CV correctly to sell themselves, then they probably would have more of a chance, and they could just say, hey, look, don't have experience, but what I do know is this.
I agree with you, but then I also disagree with you on that one as well, Kareem. Not with you personally, but with what he said, because I've done the CV. Nobody has given me any feedback. I've not had any feedback from anyone. I've reached out to agencies all over Antibes and nothing. I've asked people to help me. Is this the right way? Nothing. I'm like, okay, fair enough. I'll keep trying. That's all I can do. So again, I agree with what he's saying. But again, like I said to you, I've actually tried to reach out to him. I'm not saying that it's his fault or anything, whatever. It's just one of those things. It's a tough market, as we've said. It's one of those markets. It's a niche market to get into. It is difficult to get into. But we'll just keep trying. But you know what I mean? It's like, I've tried to do the CV. I've tried to learn as much as I can. I'm on literally, I mean, every contact I've got on LinkedIn is basically a seafarer, trying to, you know, enhance my network that way. I'm trying to get onto webinars and stuff. So it's one of those things. It's cool.
You're putting yourself out there, and I promise you, consistency, persistency wins. With my yacht jobs, mostly I got through networking.
Fingers crossed it will happen. It will happen.
Oh, Feraz, lovely to connect with you. Thank you for sharing your insights, knowledge, and your contagious passion. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. You look after yourself, and hopefully when Australia does open up, when I come down to visit friends, I'll definitely pass you by as well.
Awesome. Love it.